Hello, I'm Oral, and welcome to Oral Gives Live. With me, I have a very interesting guest always here. People always say to me, how come he's not back yet? So give the man a chance. Only once a year we bring him. The man himself, Mr. Emilio Kalmera. How you doing?
I'm good, Earl. Good to be back on the show.
Good to have you on the show. How things going with you, man?
I've been busy. 2023 was a
Yeah?
really busy year. Really busy.
But a good year for you?
Yeah. It's getting better, you
Yeah.
know, and something I'm looking forward to.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So have you been back to Belize lately?
Oh man, I had to go back to Belize, but I took my daughter with me
Oh, okay.
because I'm making certain investments over there, and I wanted to be comfortable with over there because if something happened to me, she would have to take it over.
Okay.
So I went with her. We went to visit a farm to see if you want to invest in like it's like a community that also have a private airstrip. So they're building that community where you can build your house and you park your plane in your garage, so to speak.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's a farm as well.
Wow.
So I took her there and she loved it. And at her age, she's only like 14, and I was kind of surprised because it's very quiet. Don't have a lot of persons nearby, so it was interesting, very interesting.
There's a place like that in Florida also.
Yeah.
It's not a farm, but they have the airstrip.
You have a lot of them.
Yeah?
Yeah, you have one now in Puerto Rico, I think. No, Santo Domingo making one as well. Santo
Wow,
Domingo.
that's amazing, man. The perfect life for a pilot. Huh?
Yeah, and it's not expensive to get in now. The land is starting from 35,000, and going up to I think 55,000 or something
Really?
like that. So I'm buying one for 45,000.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good. And Belize is really popular among Americans.
Yeah,
tourists,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It was like a hidden gem, and now it's not so hidden anymore. Yeah, that's the only problem. But it's big enough. Population density is really low as well. So those are some of the things I look at when I'm investing as well.
And the people, they're nice.
They're basically like me, like us.
Yeah.
And that's why I felt at home. And the official language is English.
And they speak English almost like us. I
Yeah,
understand.
that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
You know, and so you don't have that constraint like St. Martin, where it's a small island. You're also connected to Mexico and all the other countries. You can drive down to Panama if you want to. So you're not stuck on an island.
Right.
You're not a sitting duck. Let me put it that way.
Do they ask you where you're from when they hear you speak?
Sometimes, ironically, if they don't suspect I'm a tourist,
Yeah.
they would think I'm part of them. Because when I go down there, I put on my real,
Yeah.
bruck up English to blend in.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really talk very, like
Yeah.
I say popular in terms of the British type of way of talking. I talk like how I talk, like rough, and they don't really notice the difference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so how long now you've been going to Belize?
Okay, so the hurricane had stopped me because I was supposed to go in 2017 back. I did end up going back last year, 2023, for the second time. Because I had another investment that went kind of wrong over there. It went to court. The American government stepped in, and now we've been compensated. So I also taking care of that, as well as also looking to buy the farm as well. So there's two dynamics going on there as well.
Yeah, I remember you telling me the last time you was here about that whole issue. And so if it wasn't for the U.S. government,
Right.
everyone lost their money,
Basically,
right?
yeah, because it was an American company.
Oh,
So that's why they stepped in.
Oh, okay.
If it was a Belizean company, that would have been a whole different story. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have almost a similar story here in St. Martin right now.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if you've been following that one.
Oh, you were talking about what? Mullet Bay down about? Or what are you talking about?
No, there's the one day in Cold Bay. And,
Didn't hear about that one.
Yeah?
Yeah?
I don't want to speak about it this show, but
Oh, wait. Yeah. I know what you're talking
got
about.
it,
Yeah,
right?
I know what you're talking about.
because when that happened,
Yeah.
the other day, I was thinking about you.
Yeah.
And I remember what you told me
Yeah.
on a previous show. And I said, there's a lot of similarity in
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
it's true. But it's a pity though, for a small island that depends on investment, heavily on real estate investment.
Yeah.
It's really a pity. And then also you have a lot of young professionals can't afford to buy $300,000 homes, and these homes was right in the bracket of affordable for young professionals.
Yeah.
And also it was a good thing, but it got messed up.
Now, I remember the first time I got burned in real estate.
Yeah.
I was burned by a local like me. And I said, never again.
Yeah. You gotta be so careful, especially with those deals where, you pay now and you turnkey. You gotta be so
Exactly.
careful with those type of deals. Yeah.
So when you look at things in St. Martin now, from the last time you've been here on the show, how the island look to you?
Well, we just had elections. We see what the results came about. I'm not too surprised with the results because I always tell people, look, if you're in government and one or two ministers does well and the rest doesn't do well, people don't see that. People see ultimately how did I benefit, how did the population benefit, or whatever. So you will get penalized if all of you guys don't do the right thing. Some people will come to you and say, yeah, but that's my minister. You have to get away from thinking like that. All of them collectively have to do the right thing. And so you don't want one person going in there who's pretty good and the rest are horrible, because that's going to affect you down the road, because people don't look at, oh yeah, but he did well. They don't look at that, and so the island now, people say, yeah, the government that went out, that's the best thing that happened. I don't really agree, because you have situation where COVID, you had the hurricane that had to deal with.
Yeah.
And that's something that, how would you react in a situation like that? You don't know. Of course, could have done things better. Yeah, of course.
But when you look at St. Martin, take for example, you just arrived here. You've never been to St. Martin before in your life.
Yeah.
This place it's booming. It looks great.
It looks great to one extent, but of course you have other elements. As you stay longer, you realize that there's certain things that's end up frustrating you. Traffic situation, then you go in certain areas, you see how they look. Then if you're staying on this side of the island, Kobe, Muller Bay area, whatever, is good.
Yeah.
But if you leave this area, and also if you're walking as well, I met some tourists, they say they don't even use the car. They were staying like in Pelican area.
Yeah. So
they just say they walk everywhere, because it didn't make any sense to go with a car. And so they was happy with that, So you have like that mixed feelings. If you go to town, is a disaster, and the night as an example.
I didn't expect you to respond the way you did it, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
When you look at St. Martin, though, and I think in the last year and a half, we've seen a boom in construction, especially condos, etc.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad for St. Martin.
No.
I do think, though, that it drives up the cost for young people who want to purchase their first home.
Yeah.
I mean, you have more experience than me in this. How you feel about it?
The ironic thing is, and this is going into the tax aspect, the tax reform aspects, I think failure to really tackle the tax reform is going to penalize us in the end, because when the economy is booming in St. Martin, that boom don't happen to government, because we don't have taxes that actually grow with the boom.
Exactly.
We rely on wage tax, and wage tax, if employers don't increase salaries, or they pay minimum wage, there's very little that happens even in a boom for government. We don't have no property tax. We don't have no capital gains tax. So any boom, government will never feel it. And so that's why I was telling government, if you don't do tax reform, anything that you do will be futile. It won't work. And I've been saying that for years.
I'd like if you could explain for my audience about capital gains tax, because that's very important. Some countries up to 30-40%.
Yeah. So capital gains tax, let's say I come to St. Martin as an investor. I bought a house, I'm just saying a home for $100. I fix it up, I add some value to it. I add $50 value, so it's $150. But let's say I flip it in 2 years and sell it for $500. The difference between $500 and $150, there's no capital gains. In other words, there's no tax on that difference in that profit that you make.
You just walk away that profit.
Basically, yeah. And most other countries is not like that. Most other countries do charge capital gains tax. And we don't have a property tax. But it's ironic, you don't have a property tax, you don't have a capital gains tax. You're losing money like crazy.
The property tax is still there in the books.
It's in the books.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, if you don't want to have property tax, no problem, but you should do at least a capital gains tax or a progressive transfer tax. Because then what happens then, when the economy is booming, you also capture the boom. But if you don't do that, you can't rely on wage tax. Our wage tax is not sufficient. It doesn't grow with economic growth.
When you look at the progressive transfer tax, you think that will be good for St. Martin?
It definitely will, because we have a lot of speculative when it comes to real estate. So it's not a problem. So you have a bracket. So if someone wants to speculate and increase the price over $1 million to sell, that progressive now comes back to government in a good form, because we only have progressive on wage tax.
Right.
But if you look at our progressive tax goes up to 47.5. We have a 5% turnover tax. The 5% turnover tax almost equates to that 47 up to that 47.5. It means then that your wage tax system is not working.
And another thing too, if you're in real estate, the government takes off 35%, and then the other 65% is left for you to do what you want to do.
Right. So that's for.
It doesn't really work, really.
Yeah, that's for personal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, personal ones. Yeah, that's correct.
But personal.
Yeah.
And that, I think, hurts a lot of local people who have their personal real estate.
That's true. Especially the ones who, the good thing though is if you have, I think, don't quote me on this, if you have 4 or less, you consider that in that 65% or whatever. If you have more than 4 properties, they might still throw you as a business. They might still handle you as a business as opposed to doing that. And then of course you could deduct more costs, depreciation costs, et cetera, and offset your taxes on that. So
No, I wasn't aware of that one.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
yeah.
So there's been a lot of talk about tax reform now going on for years,
Yeah.
more than a decade,
Yeah.
since 10.
Yeah.
And nothing is really happening.
It's a pity because I really admired the Minister of Finance. However, I remember when I was working in the bank and I went to help other department, and I got penalized because I wasn't focusing on what I had to do. So I have a mandate, and I was helping them, but helping them wasn't part of my mandate. All that to say is the Minister of Finance started to focus on stuff outside of his portfolio. So, for example, the COSEA, which is educational, financial literacy, is good, but it's kind of that's fall under the educational portfolio. What he should have done is focus on the tax reform that has been worked on and explain to the public how it's going to benefit them, how it's going to benefit the businesses, and then constantly explain where you are in the timeline. So then people can keep abreast and say, oh, this is going on, and give his feedback on that. I think if he had done that approach, he would have got more votes instead of lose votes. Because yes, it's nice the things he did, but it's not within your portfolio.
There seems to be a huge influx of people coming to Simrata now, purchasing condos, living, enjoying all the things that we, the local taxpayers, pay for: police protection, fire, etc. But they're not paying their share of taxes.
You're correct. Another issue is this is so ironic. We have a 5% tax on hotel stays and room tax. Why is it the same as the turnover tax? Because 2 different things.
Exactly.
Room tax is not turnover tax. The room tax ordinance clearly says you're allowed to levy that tax on the persons who are staying, whereas the turnover tax is the business have to pay it. We all know that that's not true because they actually put it in the price, embedded in the price, and we end up paying it, right? So why would you have a 5% room tax when everywhere in the world is probably minimum 8% and up? So you're losing revenue there again. You understand? Which don't make any sense. And then the turnover tax, we get messed up twice. The business actually doesn't pay it because they embed it. We pay it as the consumer, and then so we get taxed double because we pay the turnover tax for them, and we get wage tax. So that's why the cost of living, we can never keep up with the cost of living.
But it's quite strange because I've spoken to basically all the union leaders over the years about the turnover tax. And I can't understand why union leaders have never spoken out against it because it's hurting their membership.
It is. It's a detriment. For example, if you look at Curacao, when I look at Curacao, one of the biggest income for governments in Curacao is profit tax. For us, it's one of the lowest.
Yeah.
Why? When you take your turnover tax, you can deduct it as a cost, even though you didn't pay it. Remember, we paid it.
Right.
So you're offsetting that, and of course, the business is doing very well, but it doesn't look that way because they're offsetting their so-called with the cost of the turnover.
Right.
The tax office is aware of this because when you file your taxes, they don't accept 100% of the turnover tax. They only accept 90%.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is they know that actually the business don't pay it. So if you know that, why don't you just change the whole thing? Because it's hurting a lot of people. Huh?
Yeah. Anything else you think is important in that area that we need to know about?
In terms of the turnover tax? We're also seeing it kind of dropping as well, because as the cost of living gets higher and higher and higher and higher, it makes sense for me to shop online. Because I would want to support you, but the cost of living is with energy, you have the turnover tax aspect to it, and so forth. It forces me now, even though I don't want to necessarily do that, it forces me to buy online. So you see now a drop in the turnover tax.
It's amazing how many people buy from Amazon.
Yeah.
In Somalia.
Yeah. I don't blame them, because sometimes you could go on and even buy garbage bags much cheaper than in St. Martin.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
And you're paying 7% tax when it goes through Florida.
Yeah.
You're paying for it to bring it to St. Martin, and it's still cheaper.
Still
than
cheaper.
St. Martin.
Yeah. I had that same problem when I needed to get an external hard drive, because I save a lot of videos as well.
Yeah.
And so I need to get an external hard drive. Now I needed it urgently, And so I was considering buying it locally because I need it urgently. But when I compared the price by this store and online, the difference was just way too big. So I decided just to ship it by plane. And it still came out cheaper.
Yeah, I know that there's been a movement behind the scenes by many business to have some kind of tax on these online purchases.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
It's going to be tricky to implement. If you don't do it, of course, together with the friend side, it might be a bit trickier.
Exactly.
And I don't think that's the ultimate solution. I don't think that's the ultimate solution. What you can do is look to see how can you do the reforms in the other areas, like we talk about the capital gains versus progressive transfer tax or whatever. You don't have to do all of them. Right? You just have to pick one of them, one or maybe two, but one at least at minimum. We don't have none of that right now.
In case you've just joined us, this is Oral Gibbs Live. You're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, or you're listening to us on Hot 99.9 FM radio. My guest is Mr. Emilio Kalmera. Mr. Kalmera, when you look at St. Martin and all the discussion about taxes, right? It's kind of strange because the casinos are getting around it. Understand there were no real legal basis for collecting a tax on the casino, but I know there's a $50,000 monthly payment that they have to pay. Is that correct, or?
To be honest, I have the ordinance at the office, but I can't really bring it to my head right now. I know that has always been an issue indeed, but they do have to pay because of the government allocates personnel there as well, so they have to pay that.
The controllers and all
Yeah,
that.
they have to pay for that. It's a fixed fee. And most casinos also have a fixed fee depending on the slots, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very easy to know what you're supposed to get.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if you don't have a department that says, okay, we're supposed to get this amount, and then control that every time, you know what I mean? There's no control. Then you don't always saying they're not paying, but are you controlling what you're supposed to get versus going out and claiming it?
You know how that came about? I remember the government had issues many years ago with the casinos because they were taxing them on the drop.
Yeah.
And they were cheating.
Yeah.
So the government said, look, okay, we know you're cheating, we can't catch you. You're gonna pay $50,000 monthly.
Yeah.
Across the board, that's it.
Yeah.
What you get, it's zero.
Yeah.
But we want 50,000. But it seemed not even that they're paying.
And that's the problem now, because maybe some people got some people in their pocket. Yeah. You know, because when I don't pay and I owe taxes, they come after me.
And
you know what I mean?
And that's why it's so. I know I'm not against casinos. I'm not against people gambling. You look at Las Vegas; they have a gaming control board.
Yeah.
St. Martin's been discussing that for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, we're not going anywhere with it.
But that's the problem I have. We talk too much.
Yeah.
We talk too much and no action. You know, and that's another thing. The world is changing so fast, right? In the past, we could have lily daddle because there was not that exponential changing.
Yeah.
But now it's going so fast that the stuff that we have outstanding is gonna be problematic, because not only we have to fix that outstanding, we have other elements now that's happening because of this change.
But do you think that we could also tax ourselves out because we introduce too many taxes? We'll see a decrease in the economy.
Yeah, there's a theory that's called the Lafayette curve. It shows you that as you continue to tax, you will get to a point where you get a lot, but then it goes back down the other way as people try to avoid it.
You get diminishing returns.
You're right, and that's easy for us to happen because a lot of businesses now, are foreign investors as well. They're not only in St. Martin.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're all over the place. Even persons who, for example, Jamaica or whatever, they also is technically investors because they're here, but they can also tap back home without a problem. It's not like they don't have they have their passport from overseas, so they can always go back as well. They have that potential. A lot of us don't have that opportunity.
And that's amazing because you have no workers in St. Martin. The salary doesn't go to the bank in St. Martin. No. That's I didn't know about that.
Yeah, but I knew about it because I had when I was working at Housing Foundation, there was a security guard, and it was weekend I gave her a lift home, and I was discussing with her, and she says, she works even on Saturday and Sunday. I said, but you don't get time for yourself? She said, no, man, I pay my mortgage back in Jamaica, so I have to work.
Yeah.
So that means that every month you have to pay your mortgage back in Jamaica. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying this is the reality.
You know, it's amazing how this small little island
Yeah.
is doing so much for the Caribbean and probably the rest of the world. People from all over coming here. Some are working really hard, making an honest living.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I think the economy of this island is going to be drained as we progress.
Not only drain from that perspective, you're gonna get a brain drain. Like persons like me are leaving St. Martin, and it's happening more and more and more. Like my colleague took his wife was working for medical center, right? He was working with me in my department. His wife was working medical center. The sister was working for government in the health ministry. The brother was working at APS pension fund or whatever. All of them gone Panama.
Really?
So you lose all of them one shot.
Wow.
Then you have a number of persons going back Holland. Because what people don't realize is, for example, I can't afford to buy a $250,000 house in St. Martin. I can't. I don't have any debts. So what happens is I get tax squeeze because I don't have any deductibles. I don't have no car loans, none of those stuff. So what happens is I'm paying the highest taxes, can't afford to buy a house. And so I'm going to start looking around and say, but wait, Holland have these benefits because remember Holland have an Asian population, Canada have an Asian population, a lot of places have Asian population, so they need young professionals. So they're attracting, even Italy. Yeah. Italy is telling you if you come, you practically get a house for nothing.
Yeah.
So this is what's happening. Huh? Mm-hmm. So if we don't be careful, we're going to get a brain drain, and that's going to deteriorate the issues in St. Martin further.
And we need people like you because I know you're a very intelligent young man. And if we lose people like you, then we're really going to have a problem.
Yeah, because you're going to have extremes. You're going to have rich foreign investors that know how to pay less and less tax. You're going to have those persons who are here working just to send money back home.
It's already happening.
And the middle persons now are gone.
Yeah.
And these are the ones that actually supporting the economy.
So then what government needs to do to stop that?
Again, I'm talking about tax reform is gonna help that as well because you need a level playing field at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right now there is no level playing field, and I keep referring to that as well. I'm gonna give you a simple deviation here. So I owe 2020, I think 2019 and 2020 tax, right? So what I normally do, I normally get back money from SZV. So I say let me request the money from SZV so I can then pay that bulk to government and then pay the rest after. Send a message to SZV, fill in the form, no answer. So I follow up with them, I think last week, get a message saying, yeah, but tax office took the money already. I say, okay, nice, but no one was going to tell me that. So SZV didn't tell me anything, and tax office didn't tell me nothing. So I can say, you know what? I'm going to say nothing either. The rest that what I owe, you contact me when you're ready, because obviously we're not communicating. And this is part of the problem we're having. It's very frustrating. The tax system and the tax office works in silo. They're not customer oriented, none of those things, and that frustrates a lot of people, a lot of businesses as well.
And at the same time, man, the people that they're like overworked,
they're short staff.
Yeah.
They're short staff, and another bottleneck as well, because I help some clients as well file, and one of the clients they send a message saying, oh, we cannot accept so and so because you didn't attach, for example, the insurance for the company for the house, whatever. But I said obviously it was attached, and obviously, if you look at the spreadsheet that I have and I attach everything behind the spreadsheet, you can't have a mortgage without having a insurance. Yeah. You understand? So what you're saying don't make any sense even. Stuff like that. They're very
simple. Yeah,
call the person and verify. That's what you do. It's customer oriented. Not because you're a tax office, you have to be a big boo man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you look at the maximum, which is 47.5% in the income tax, you think that's too high?
Most countries is much lower. Holland moved away from that a long time. I think in Holland, don't quote me, I think the max now is probably, roughly 30%, I think.
Yeah.
I think Curacao actually reduced the profit tax. And by doing so, they also had to reduce the income brackets as well.
But look at some neighboring islands. There's no income tax.
That's true. That's Antigua, Anguilla. Not too sure about the others, but that's the way to do it. Because remember, we're trying to hold on to a old Dutch system, but we actually open up. We're an island. We open up to everybody around us, and even people way out in other bigger countries. So to do the system that we have don't make any sense, especially where you have low minimum wage, and most people, you have an income distribution that don't make any sense either. So you're never going to get your money from income in wage tax. You're never gonna get it. There's not sufficient room,
Yeah.
money in that to support the economy of St. Martin, and that's where we get in the bottleneck in government.
I was reading that Antigua's projecting to receive this year, 2024, over $700 million just in import duty.
Yeah. And you also have, I think St. Kitts is doing pretty well as well. Santo Domingo is doing pretty well as well. You see, we have to get away from the income and wage tax aspects, because you need to free up your people to tackle other type of things. You know what I mean? Instead of spending, because look at this. And when I was studying in Holland, everything I did, I filed online. So I filed everything online, uploaded my stuff online or whatever. So there's no saying that you lose my stuff, because it's right there in the system. Now we have to print a document, fill it in by hand or by computer, print it out, and stand up in the line to submit it in this age.
Right, you know, years ago I used to get the report from the central bank, and in that report you can see where most of the tax came into St. Martin. Traditionally, St. Martin got its budget from mostly wage tax, average working person.
Correct.
I think turnover tax have changed that now, right, in a way.
Yeah, so in the past we saw that the wage tax indeed and the turnover tax was kind of like neck and neck. This is after, of course, we went separate. The 5% started to come here. It has to be 3%, but it had to be split between Curacao and St. Martin. I think we used to keep, don't quote me, 1% or 2%, and the rest used to go Curacao.
I know there was the 1% on the foreign exchange.
Yeah, that
was always going.
Yeah, that was always there. Yeah. That we do pretty okay with, but that's also a tax that's based on growth. So as you grow, you also see that back as well. But wage tax, not necessarily, because there's not because we're growing mean the employer going to pay you more in wage tax.
In fact,
wages.
It's the opposite right now.
Yeah.
Employers look to pay less.
Yeah, actually, all over mostly throughout most of the world, wages have not kept pace with inflation, huh? And so you can see already that's a problem already, because inflation is basically the price of goods going up and up, and when government tax that, they get back some monies from that, but then the persons in terms of wages doesn't go forward. Yeah. So I can't help stimulate the economy further because I don't have the purchasing power to do that.
But when you look at inflation and say macroeconomics, and economics is a very funny thing. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't make sense.
Right.
And I think in St. Martin, I'll tell you why. Yes, there's inflation. America's feeling it. Other places are feeling it. But a lot of people in St. Martin is acting like there's nothing. And I say that because they're out buying cars like crazy, man. I've seen more new cars being purchased in the last 16 months than ever before in this island.
One, is easier to get a car loan for obvious reasons. Secondly, we discussed this in the last program, there's a vibrant underground economy, very vibrant.
And that one is interesting.
It's very, very vibrant. And I mean, you could look at it for what it is. Someone comes to your home, decides to do work for you, don't give you no invoice, don't give you no crib number, but he's giving you a good price, right? If you go the reputable way, you probably would pay $500. He's gonna do it for maybe for $150, $200.
Yeah.
So in that sense, you kind of close your eyes and say, okay, I don't really need it. And the tax deductibility from that is only a max 3,000 guilders. So do I go to the extra mile to try to get, you know what I mean? So all this now is why people survive good, but it completely out of the legal sort of framework.
And what surprised me is that when you speak with people, you find out they're doing all kinds of side jobs. Yeah. Average people you'll never expect.
But they have to. Yeah. How are you going to make it in St. Martin if you don't do a side hustle? Whether it's reported or not, that's a different discussion.
Yeah, right.
But at the end of the day, we're humans, and humans, like businesses as well, their first order is to survive.
Have they ever made an estimate of how much that economy?
It's difficult to do.
Yeah.
They have never done it, I think. No, it's very difficult.
But at least it could come up with some kind of estimate.
I mean, you could kind of gauge it. But one of the problems we have in St. Martin, we lack a lot of statistics. If you had proper statistics, then you could do an estimate. Like with the census that was done, of course, now you could derive a lot of information. I did went to the meeting where they was telling us about the statistics. Pretty shocking, by the way. Was I surprised? No, but it was still shocking.
Poverty.
Yeah.
according to statistics,
Yeah.
70%, I think, of the population of St. Martin are in the poverty line.
It is. They are. They are.
If that's the case, here's a contradiction.
Yeah.
An economy with a 70% poverty level functioning the way this is functioning, it goes against all economic principles in a way. Unless you look at what you just mentioned, the underground economy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It can never work without the underground economy. You know, it's look, you have a lot of people coming from different islands or whatever, and so a lot of them is not even legally resident on the island, but they have to survive, and they're gonna do like Venezuelans came here, and I'm not gonna lie, I had a friend of mine asked them to do work, and they charged, a group of them came do the work, very affordable, but do you think they actually went and pay taxes on that? No, because in the next couple of months they're gone somewhere else again.
Yeah.
That's just the reality.
But not only that, in a way the government protects them. I'll tell you why. And the people protect them. If there's a raid, people get very angry.
Yeah, of course.
And the telephone companies make a lot of money because all these people have the numbers that are purchased from the telephone company.
Yeah.
And they use that. There's a huge amount of income coming to the telephone companies with the phone cards.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. We benefit on one hand and don't benefit on the other hand. You know what I mean? But the net effect is, the reality is, we are, I say that we still strive because of that underground economy. The only problem is persons like me who try to be honest and fair, whatever, pardon my French, we get screwed.
Exactly.
That's the problem. There's no level playing field. Because someone who does side hustles and don't report it, let's say they get $2,000 net in their hand. They have that in their hand. I might get $2,000 in my hand, not my hand, but gross.
Yeah.
You deduct all the taxes and whatever, I get maybe, let's say $1,400. But that person have $600 more. So if you have to go in a bidding to buy something, who's gonna win? Not me. They're gonna win.
And that's what's happening right now?
Yeah, that's why you have certain cultures that are here be able to buy up a lot of stuff.
Yeah. In case you've just joined us, this is Oral Gibbs Law. My guest is Mr. Emilio Kalmera. Here speaking with him on Hot 99.9 FM radio, Facebook, and YouTube. When I come back, we'll continue with Mr. Kalmera right here on Oral Gibbs Live.
We are vibrant, expressive, warm, and diverse. Together, we conquer, and now we expand into new horizons, giving you more of the best. Introducing our new Bankomatico Plus with wider acceptance, purchase protection, and enhanced security. Whether you're online, traveling, or in paradise, experience more with Windward Island Bank. Bankomatico Plus, more of the best.
My guest on Oral Gibbs Live is Mr. Emilio Kalmera. You've seen him there, or you're listening to us on Hot 99.9 FM radio, Facebook, and YouTube. And it's always a pleasure having him here in the program with me. When you look at the global economy right now, and the whole globalization thing, you think globalization still is key?
If you look at all the political aspects with Russia, and then you have Sweden, I think it was Sweden for the first time now, putting troops to go and fight or whatever.
Yeah.
We're getting all these issues now, and it's going to boil down to a few things. It's going to boil down to energy, food for sure. Okay? Those who are not food independent, have food security and energy security, basically going to get messed up. Because at the end of the day, America has made a lot of enemies. And a lot of the countries that we are fighting against, Russia or whatever, they usually have the control over the oil and energy or whatever, food, grains and stuff like that. So eventually countries are going to start to look at, okay, how can we become more and more self-sustainable? And that kind of means to deglobalize to some extent. If the United States try to do that without producing anything, and they're just printing, and causing inflation, the dollar's going to be destroyed.
Well, they're already, $32 trillion debt?
Yeah. And that's how and most central bankers are going to try to inflate the debt, right? Now, that's a very technical term, but by doing that, they're going to end up destroying the US dollar, right? They fear deflation. And I'm saying deflation is a natural order process. You have to do both, right? You have to know when the context to do it.
Right.
Even in scripture talks about deflation, the year of Jubilee. In scripture, it talks about why you should do a year jubilee after every 49 years, because you don't want debts to grow too big. You don't want inequality to grow too big.
Right.
So you have to reset the debt and then start over again. Even the land has to be rested for a whole year, and then you could whatever. We don't do that. So if you're not going to do that, then you should allow deflation. What is deflation? Deflation means your purchasing power is actually going up, meaning that the dollar value is going up. Inflation is the opposite.
Yeah.
It means that the purchasing power is eroded. But central bankers don't like deflation. They prefer inflation. Now, inflation is not a problem if the majority of your world population, is also strong middle class. Okay? But that's not the case. Right? Most persons are either poor or weak middle class. So inflation kills them, but inflation makes the rich richer. Okay, because their asset values goes up or whatever. But purchasing power for a poor person is important as well as a middle class. So you can see there's a huge deviation of that balance. That balance is never going to happen if you have central bankers only rooting for the rich.
Yeah, and it's if you look at people who are in that industry, central bank, they come from wealthy families.
That's
most
the problem.
Of the times.
That's the problem. So they can never ever. So democracy is a joke. Let me put it that way. Because you have democracy, but you have these persons that are not chosen democratically making decisions for everybody else.
Yeah. And that's happening globally.
Yeah. It's a big problem, huh?
Yeah. And the thing is, America was energy independent just when Trump left office.
Yeah.
Now they're no longer there.
And we had a discussion. You can say what you want about Trump. When Trump said, let's make America great again, you have to understand what goes behind that. Yeah. Whether you like him or not as a person and whatever the case is, from an economic standpoint, it made sense what it is he was doing.
I've always been a big supporter of his from the time he came down that escalator. Yeah. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I can see what happened in America. Yeah. A real turnaround. Yeah. The thing is, at that time, there were no wars in the world. It was so peaceful because people were afraid of this guy.
Afraid of him bad.
No, there's a guy that nobody was afraid of. And we have wars all over.
Yeah, and I think we also had a discussion with Obama. We talk about, it's nice that Obama was the first black president, but I'm going to say it here, for the record, I find Obama failed. He failed a majority of the American people, actually.
I was reading in the New York Times, the crash of 2008, Obama was president.
Yeah.
And there was a meeting held by the Treasury, and they brought in all of these big executives from all the big banks.
The same one that caused a mess.
Exactly.
Yeah. We put the same people who was in the cookie jar, who thief from the cookie jar, back in power. All right. So what do you think is gonna happen?
And according to them, who was in that room, they had no respect for Obama.
Of course not.
I was surprised.
But are you surprised?
I was surprised.
You remember that there's a saying that the Rothschild brothers said. He said, "Give me control of the nation's money supply, and I care not who makes the laws." And laws are by design. It's like here we have the parliamentarians who represent the people. We are representative democracy. So if a banker is telling you this, right, he means that who the hell cares about representative democracy? I control the money.
They're the richest family.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what's amazing though? When they pull up to St. Bart's in Christmas time, and on their mega yacht, it's actually smaller than some of the other wealthy guys.
The wealthy guys want to show wealth by having something bigger and bigger and bigger. But doesn't mean that more wealthier than certain people. Look, Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett was a humble guy. He still live in the same house, drive the same old car. But who's more richer than Warren Buffett?
Right today, I think he's the 6th richest, according to yesterday's report. Yeah, so it's quite amazing.
Yeah.
But St. Martin have a few millionaires too.
Yeah, I believe that. Of course. Yeah. But the problem is having a good bit of millionaires and having imbalances, huge imbalances, and increasing imbalances in your economy, going to eventually affect those same millionaires. Because you need to understand when people get disenfranchised and they don't have any other options, you know what happens? You remember your first human right is to survive. Huh? As a species, the first thing we try to do is survive. If we cannot survive by legal means, we're going to do it in a other way.
Right.
And that's my fear. And that's the reason why when I was looking to invest and I looked at Belize, the first one of the things I looked at is population density. I look at food aspect, I look at water. Because in a crash or whatever, you want to be in a place where the population density is not huge. because you don't want to be around too much of people. Because remember, if you're around too much of people and you cluster on each other and things are not going good, we'll turn against each other. Huh? That's just a given. If you even look
Definitely.
at how animals operate, it's the same philosophy.
But you know what's interesting? That China, a lot of wealthy Chinese guys are buying up good farmland in America.
Bill Gates did the same thing. He's doing it for a reason.
Yeah.
He's not stupid.
But at least Bill Gates is an American. But when you have Chinese doing that, they're going to exert a lot of pressure. Now,
Of course.
Now Democrat members of Congress are looking to see how they can stop it.
It's very difficult because one of the things that, because of policies, that's why I think, again, I love Trump again. One of the policies that messed up America is who owned most of the treasury bonds or the government bonds.
Chinese.
Okay, then. And you know what that means? If they have to dump, in other words, try to sell off in mass all of those bonds, you know what's going to happen to the interest rates? It's going to go through the roof. They're going to destroy the whole American economy. Now, people will say that China won't do it because they're going to mess them up too. But right now, China's going away from the fact that America was the number one buying or whatever. They're kind of moving away from that aspect.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if they start moving away more and more from that, it's going to be a problem for America.
And they're emerging world power now.
Exactly.
It's just amazing when you look at what's happening. And the concern right now is all these wars all over the world.
Yeah.
And how it interacts with the global economy and trade, because the Red Sea issue, that's a serious
huge. That means oil prices are going to probably go to the roof just now as well. Food and everything is going to get more expensive. And this is what I'm trying to tell people. If you don't have at minimum food security and energy security, you're going to get wiped out. Remember, globalization smashes all but the biggest. We're not that big.
But we don't have any food security here.
No. We don't have energy security either.
Right.
Think what happened with GB. You know, and whereas some countries was preparing for energy independence, you have Germany, Spain. Right now you have pro-consumers going on in Germany. That means consumers are also producing energy and sending it back to the grid. It's so much so that even big energy companies started getting into a problem. Because now they want to buy that, but it's too much. Because everyone is putting up solar, everyone is doing these things. And what we're doing, at least Stacia is doing something in that realm, Sabre is doing something in that realm. What we busy with?
I think it's important that they have to write a legislation for that still on the whole energy issue and solar energy and going back to the grid.
Yeah.
My concern has always been the very wealthy people who can afford those luxuries.
Yeah.
They're going to make money.
Yeah.
In the meantime, the utility company, they have to make these huge investments in engines.
Yeah.
And who ends up paying for it?
Yeah, the consumer ultimately.
And this is the problem.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. The most expensive things within anything is when you price in a product. So you're a business, you price a product, you have the energy costs you have to put into that product. You have to recoup that.
Right.
You have to recoup the interest costs, the labor costs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Of course, you also have the turnover tax aspect as well. So when you add up all these components, it's cumulative. And then you still have to add on your profit margin on top of that. Yeah. So it's just going to make your product way too expensive, and that's the reality.
Is that why we see food is so expensive in St. Martin? The supermarkets and so forth.
I think that's part of it, but there may, because remember a lot of the supply or whatever also is a factor of Russia with grains and et cetera, because yes, America is one of the largest producers of food, but the nutrients, the fertilizers or whatever doesn't necessarily come from America.
Right.
It comes from Ukraine, Russia primarily, and so if that's affected, of course America's going to get affected unless they find another source to get those things from.
You think people in St. Martin really understand what's going on and what they can do to protect themselves?
The majority know, but I do understand why. You know, you have to be compassionate for people. Most people are here in survival mode. They're trying to survive, put food on the table. So looking at the next day is the most important for them. Whereas for me, I look more in the next 5 to 10 years. Because I have the ability to do that, you know what I mean. Not everybody is in the same boat. So I do understand the conundrum that we're in, and because we don't have people that can see foresight or whatever, when it comes to, like, for example, voting, they vote for the wrong things, and that's the problem.
But you might be surprised. People watching this show, listening to it, and they come up to me and they say, "Wow, I didn't realize that. I got to make some changes." It does happen when you speak about certain things.
True, but in everything you have to have subjects, right? The most subjects you have, they call it critical mass, you can affect change quicker. The problem is I say that you distract people, you subdivide them or whatever, so you never can get critical mass. So the ones without critical mass, changes can never occur. And I think that's the strategy that's been used over here: divide and conquer. And the reality is, change is never going to happen because we are too fragmented.
Now we've done a lot of interviews with you. Mm-hmm. Is there anything you think that, hey man, Earl didn't ask me that I got to talk about?
Let me see. I think one of the things we could probably touch on, because a lot of young professionals like myself, sit back and say, okay, I'm in St. Martin, I can't get this, I can't do this or whatever. What can I do? There's a lot of other professionals are talking about Africa as an example. You call it developing and emerging market opportunities.
Yeah.
Some people say if they go Ghana, for example, they can get a wash of land for little or nothing. So you have to try to think about, if I can't make it here, where can I go and investing now that in the next 5 to 10 years I can whatever. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of young professionals have to start thinking in that direction. Where are the opportunities overseas, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I would love it to be here, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I also have to go where my money is being treated best as well. You know what I mean? $1 here versus $1 in Belize or $1 in Africa or whatever is totally different.
You think government can do anything to change that when it comes to young professionals?
Again, it still comes back down to tax reform. Tax reform would greatly help that by incentivizing. For example, they would have to do like cross-subsidized property for individuals to make it affordable. But you can only do that by getting the money somewhere else to cross-subsidize it. And that comes through, for example, capital gains. If you try the capital gains tax, I'm just saying whatever, 10%. You can say, okay, from 5% from that, I'm going to put into a fund for young professionals to help with, this aspect with the home being too expensive. You know what I mean? But that's something that they have to decide upon.
No, there's capital gains tax when a company sells
correct
product, which I think is 40%.
To be honest, I've never really seen that implemented here because I know there was a scenario when DeVry bought out the medical university. That was a big issue tax-wise. I don't know what exactly went wrong, but something went wrong in that aspect.
Because my understanding is that individuals, there's no capital gains tax, but when there's a corporation selling that property or whatever, there's a tax on that. Well, and there are also loopholes, I understand. Company get around it.
Yeah, there's always loopholes.
Nothing pays.
Yeah, there's always loopholes. Because, I know there's loopholes in America for sure where you can do a swap. And when you do that swap, the tax doesn't apply or whatever. But I'm not too sure how that works with our tax system. It's something I would have to look into when it comes from a corporation perspective.
Yeah. So we have a lot of work cut out for us.
Actually, Parliament have a lot of work, but
Parliament?
I was shocked with the results. With Rolando not getting back in because, as you can see, even though you work, you don't always get rewarded for that.
It's not about working.
No,
unfortunately.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of work has been done, but a lot of people get penalized for working.
They got people who just sit there, doesn't open their mouth, and they got reelected.
Yeah, that's the thing. The strangest thing, huh? That's why some people say, Emilio, but you should run. I say I wouldn't get one vote.
We're a strange island. In fact, the guys who make the most noise, speaking out loud, the guys who are on social media all the time, getting 5, 6, 7,000 views, ended up getting less than 200
Yeah, that's
votes.
true. That's correct.
What that tells you.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. It's I would say money talks at the end of the day. Money talks and rhetoric also fuels that as well. Because I really doubt a lot of persons who has been elected into parliament. I doubt if those persons know what really a parliamentarian should do and what capabilities a parliamentarian should have. I doubt that. Some person was campaigning as if they're coming in to be a minister, as if it was a ministerial election. And I was like, why are you doing that? I want to hear what you're going to do when you're in parliament. If you're elected as a minister, that's all good. But let me know what you're going to do from Parliament. And all I was hearing is stuff like, if you once you're in the minister's seat, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do.
And the population doesn't demand clarification because ministers are appointed, not elected.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's quite strange.
Yeah.
But I think too, what I've seen over the years, and I've been in broadcasting for a long time, is that a lot of people are afraid now to really say anything. They don't want to be squeezed.
Yeah.
They're thinking quietly.
Yeah.
And they don't like what's happening, but they're very afraid.
I don't blame them, because in the past I used to voice my, usually in the past people would kind of know where my voting kind of would have been going.
Yeah.
But you notice that I don't say anything. I stay completely neutral for a reason. Because they do penalize you if they know who you're potentially aligning with. And that's a sad reality, because at the end of the day, I had a discussion with someone after the coalition formed.
Yeah.
The person contacted me and started talking about, we want to pick our minister for our portfolio, and I don't really care about the rest. I said, but that's a stupid way of thinking. The reason why it's stupid, because collectively all the ministers, so I said, all of you guys in the coalition should pick the ministers that you want, not because you have this portfolio, you picking your minister. All of you guys should decide together which ministers or whatever, because at the end of the day, collectively as a whole, if they don't perform, you're out.
And that's better, the way you describe it.
Yeah. Because, and another thing we have a problem with is we have so much issues right now pending, right? You don't want somebody coming in government that have to learn government. Whoever coming in have to hit the ground running. There's no 2 years to wait for someone to learn government. And the learning curve can be very steep. And that's my concern.
Yeah. Because running government, it's a huge corporation.
It is, but it's worse when you're in crisis. Remember,
Exactly.
we're in crisis management,
Yeah.
All the stuff we're dealing with Holland, the tax reforms, these reforms, whatever. Now we can get someone coming in, have to start from scratch now and to try to catch up. That's almost an impossible endeavor.
And
it's
at the
almost
same
impossible.
time, people get upset because of the changes that are happening so fast.
Yeah.
If you hit the ground running and really do the right thing,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't like it in the beginning.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But my concern is who's going to be minister, and I'm hearing like rumors that certain people are going to come in, have no clue about government. Now, that's not an issue when things are going good. When things are pretty good, you're on autopilot and everything is good, you can take that chance and bring in new people, leave them learn the system because things are good. We're not in that situation, unfortunately.
We can't afford that now.
We can't afford nobody to come into government right now to learn. That's not the stage we're in now. That's not our context. And this is my fear.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying the person that was doing the best job ever. I'm not saying that either. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying whoever was appointed as a minister have to have a seasoned background or whatever that can hit the ground, not even running, flying. You understand? And that's difficult to find.
How you see Simran economy transforming? We have the tourism industry. The marine industry has grown quite a bit over the years. I think we are the biggest competition to Antigua right now.
Yeah.
Do you see other areas you think that needs to be addressed?
The thing is, on a small island, you only have so much you can choose. You know what I mean? And this is why I can kind of appreciate what Anguilla did. Anguilla realized we're a small island. So because we're small, we lack in resources or whatever we do, we have to get the bang for the buck. You understand?
Right.
So we can't go for mass tourism. We just can't do it. We don't have the resources for that. We don't have the land mass for that or whatever. What we did wrong, we focused on mass tourism, right? And now we want to try to diversify. Okay, but there's a limitation. The marine industry is nice, but then how does that trickle down for everybody else? That's what needs to be decided upon. And again, it can.
Yeah.
But then they have to show us how that's going to benefit the rest of us as well. Are you going to tax it decently or not? Are you going to leave them overpower you because if they have they have the wealth to say, no, I don't want to pay this, I don't want to pay that. That kind of happened with the harbor and the cruise, huh?
Yeah, but that the fear is that if they don't like your taxation, they'll move on.
That's the problem. And that's the problem we're having. But Anguilla have a different approach. You know, Anguilla don't look at so much taxing it to that. They look at, okay, you want to come here, no problem, but it have to be a win-win. You got to maybe build a road at some point here. You got to build a school. You know what I mean? So they do it a bit differently. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we create an infrastructure, which is very costly, right? And so if we're not even if we can't try to at least at minimum a break-even price to cover that, then it don't make any sense.
I know that happened once many years ago when Claude was in power and Muller Bay was being built, and Herb Mercer came in. He said, look, we need a facility for our young people. That's how the youth center was built there on the Long Wall Road.
Correct.
So, but I haven't heard of anything else since that time.
Yeah,
that's
so
back in the 70s.
Yeah. You see, and that's what I'm saying. You can choose to do it either way. It's not a good and a bad. It's just that, okay, if you have to build a road or whatever based on what we contractually sign, as government, I don't have to take care of that. You have to cover all that infrastructure costs. You have to do that. You have to do that. That was agreed upon. And in place of getting the tax or whatever the case is. Or you can do the tax as well, but the tax now is always a fight because somebody might want to give a lower taxes, not reflecting that, hey, at the minimum, the infrastructure costs, the environmental costs, or whatever, that's a cost, huh?
Yeah.
So if you're not covering that at bare minimum, then what are we really busy with? Who's really benefiting? And then at the same time, a lot of our people don't get at least 5,000, 6,000 gila a month salary. You understand? So then we're not even getting back in wage tax to compensate. So what are we really busy with?
The average now is around, 2,000 gills?
About that,
yeah.
roughly.
And that can't feed a family of four.
No, that's why our SLV system is doomed to failure. Because if I'm working, I'm the only one working in my family, I have 4 people in my family, it's a percentage of that salary to cover all 4 people. Now, I can tell you now that's unsustainable. You know, you would have to have a fixed amount or a fixed component plus a percentage of whatever to be able to cover 4 people with only 1 person working.
Are they aware of that?
I think people are aware of it, but they're naive.
Yeah.
And I think Mercelina said it clearly. He don't believe in the national health insurance. And he said it will fail. And he gave his reason why it would fail. You need to have a strong middle class. Even with strong countries like Canada or whatever, it's not working 100% either.
Yeah.
So imagine, and they so-called supposed to have a strong middle class or whatever, and we don't.
Well, you know, I have to agree with him. I've always been against it for many other reasons.
Yeah.
We can see the failure in education, what happened here,
Exactly.
and it hasn't improved since 1984 to now. Education just going backward.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, you know,
and our biggest cost on the budget is education. Could you imagine that?
Right.
Well, so you're not getting the bang for your buck.
And we have more illiterate people right now.
Oh, the census showed it. Yeah. The census showed it. That was surprising.
It's not good.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm thinking, well, what's good about St. Martin? I mean, poverty, education, all those things going down. There's got to be something good about St. Martin, man.
Another thing
can't close
is
off without looking at something good.
That's the thing, it's different, the same different strokes for different folks. Because I was speaking to her, she's an investor, she's a pilot for American Airlines. She lives in Texas, but she decided to buy a property here. And she loves it. So I asked her, why do you love St. Martin so much? You know what I'm saying? Because I was going to give her an offer to do something in Anguilla. Because I have land over there, I still have to figure out what the heck I'm going to do with it. So I was telling her, this is maybe I could develop it, and then you know, if you want, you can buy one or whatever. She said, no, I want to be in St. Martin. I said, why do you love about St. Martin so much? She said she wants to be where she's most happiest. Until she started to go through the process of developing her property or whatever over here, oh man, now she's singing a different tone. You know, I guess it was just the beach and the people, right? The people reflect the Jamaica. She's originally from Jamaica. Oh, okay. So the people she can kind of relate to. She liked the beach or whatever. So she feel happy here. But when she had to start dealing with the technical part within government and whatever,
then the reality hit it.
Oh man, she's singing a different tone now. She's singing a whole different tone now.
Well, you know, we out of time. I only have about a minute remaining. Anything else you want to add?
I just want to say, you know, it's going to be some challenging few years coming up. You know, nowhere in the world is perfect. I always tell people you have to pick your poison. Just that the poison for St. Martin is a bit too much for me. You know, so I hopefully that my plans materialize outside of St. Martin, but it don't have to be a reality for other persons. You know what I mean? You have to pick your poison. You know, and so stick with it and do what you need to do within to achieve your objective. I would say.
I like that term. Pick your poison.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Emilio Kalmera, thank you. Always a pleasure having you. All right.
Pleasure.
And that's it for now on YouTube, Facebook, and Hot 99.9 FM radio. See you next time. Take care. Bye.